Y'all know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 45 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. Yes, you are hearing me. This is in fact your main man, T-Squared. Tristain Thomas here with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been a while. I know it has. Life has a way of kicking you down a little bit, throwing some things your way, but you work through it. You get stronger each and every single day, and you come back to the table, and that's where we are at the table. Fresh heat straight from the kitchen, and I'm ready to go. This episode of Toss, we got to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers, how their season ended, and what's coming in their future. We got to talk about Green Bay Packers. Their season is in full swing. So far, so good. We got some beef between two NBA ballers. That's in the Toss sweep. But to start things off in state of the state, because you know that's how we get down, we have to talk Bucks basketball. Preseason is already in full swing. They have beaten the Chicago Bulls already in their first preseason tune-up. Their second preseason tune-up is in progress as we speak. I believe the last time they were, I checked, they were blowing the Utah Jazz out of the water at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. So pretty much business as usual with the new pieces, and we have to talk about it. It was a very painful ending to the season last season. Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games that went down to the eventual NBA World Champion Toronto Raptors, and big ups to them. They just found another gear come playoff time. That's why you saw a lot of load management for Kawhi Leonard. It was for that reason, to bring them a championship. And Nick Nurse pressed all the right buttons. The team clicked at the right time. They got hot. Their defense ratcheted up, and they went down and brought it home. So nothing but props to those guys. I mean, especially taking down the Warriors, KD or not, that's a big feat. So props to the Toronto Raptors. But it was a very painful ending to the season. It was a rough one for me to watch. It was a golden opportunity. And I wrote about it on the Toss blog on tossnationmedia.com. And I said it was a golden opportunity, and they really let it slip through their fingers. I think the championship was there for them to take. That's just my opinion, but we will never know now because they didn't do what was necessary in the Eastern Conference Finals to pull that series out. And they had opportunity. But it just didn't work out. And again, you have to give some credit to the Toronto Raptors for what they did. They frustrated Giannis like no team has frustrated Giannis ever all season. And the Bucks had a historically bad for them in the season, shooting season. I mean, you're talking, and it wasn't historically bad. I think that's the wrong choice of words, but they picked the worst possible time to have their worst shooting stretch of the season. You're talking 3%. What do I mean by that 3%? And again, I wrote about this in the Toss blog. The Bucks made 35% of their threes in the regular season. We're making about that same clip through the first 2 rounds of the NBA playoffs. But come the Eastern Conference Finals against the Toronto Raptors and that Toronto defense, the Bucks made 32% of their 3-point baskets. You're talking 3% being the difference between them winning an NBA championship, potentially, and losing, which is what they did. So that 3%, and don't let anybody tell you that 3% doesn't make a big difference. It makes a huge difference, especially in a series like that. It makes a huge difference. But that season has come and gone. You've dealt with all that pain over the summer. Giannis was named most valuable player. His shoe finally dropped. He's doing the tour of Greece, and he's doing the tours of China and everywhere else, and everybody's got all these projects. And John Horst, Bucks GM, went to work. What do we need to do to make this team better? What pieces do we need to add? Well, you trade away Malcolm Brogdon, pretty much was a sign and trade, and we'll get to him in a second, because people are losing their ever-loving damn mind over Brogdon as if he's the difference between winning a championship and losing a championship. And I just don't think that's the case. But again, we'll get to that in 1 second. This team that was already deep, John Horst has made deeper. You're talking about getting pieces the likes of one of the greatest 3-point shooters in NBA history and Kyle Korver. You're talking about another good 3-point shooter in Wesley Matthews, Marquette alum. You're talking about the other Lopez brother, Robin Lopez, a mascot pugilist. But you talk about a guy who could give you good defense. You talk about a guy who can give you rebound. He gives you energy. He gives you fire. Giannis's brother, Thanasis, is on the team. You know, you sprinkle a little bit of him in there with his athleticism. That could be a very good thing. You talk about Mason coming to the squad. He can give you some defense. I like the pieces that he is at. And not to mention, you have DJ Wilson, who's probably going to get a little bit more opportunity, potentially. Dante DiVincenzo, who had an injury-riddled season last season, who's coming back healthy and has shown in preseason thus far that when he's healthy and he's given opportunity, he may potentially make an impact. Oh, by the way, you still have Sterling Brown there, a guy who I feel could do the same job that potentially Malcolm Brogdon could do. Now, that's no slight on Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon is a good player. He was a really good player with the Bucks. He fit in the system very well. But for everybody that's losing their damn minds about Malcolm Brogdon and saying, oh, the Bucks are so stupid for letting him walk. And first of all, it was pretty much a sign and trade. It's pretty much a sign and trade. I know in the parameters, you look at it and everything, it doesn't go down the sign and trade, but it was pretty much a sign and trade. They said they felt comfortable with not bringing him back. They felt comfortable with the pieces that may have been available to them and what they had on the roster currently, that those guys could go and do the job. Look at the games that he missed and the job that the other guys went in and did. The Bucks did not skip a beat. So yes, getting a player the caliber of a Malcolm Brogdon back to your roster makes your team better. Absolutely. Again, this is no slight on Malcolm Brogdon. But in the grand scheme of things, the depth of this team, you have multiple guys who could go out there and do what he does. And you've replaced his shooting with, again, arguably one of the greatest three-point shooters in NBA history in Kyle Korver. You bring in another three-point shooter in Wesley Matthews. You still have Pat Connaughton who can hit threes. You have Chris Middleton who can hit threes. You have Brook Lopez who can hit threes. You have no shortage of shooting on this team. Losing Malcolm Brogdon and replacing him with two shooters, I think you'll be okay. I think you'll be okay. So I think everybody needs to stop with the doomsday predictions. They need to stop with this. Oh, man, they're so stupid for letting go of Brogdon. Let the man breathe. Let him live. He's in Indiana right now. Get the hell over it. He's not the difference between winning a championship and not winning a championship. I'm sorry. And that's been proven on the court. He makes your team better. Yes, he does. But he is not the be-all, end-all. If you want to say anybody's a be-all, end-all, then that's Giannis, the current reigning, defending, undisputed National Basketball Association most valuable player. But not Malcolm Brogdon. So let that go. He's gone. There's not a damn thing you could do about it now. Why you're crying about it so much, I don't know, because you survived just fine without Malcolm Brogdon last year and the year before that when he had back spasms and foot problems and everything else. This Bucks team got deeper, as if it were possible. They got deeper. They got better. Props to John Horst for going out there and putting the correct pieces around them, because they've been destroying teams in preseason. And I know it's preseason. You shouldn't be reading too much into it, but it's all you have to go on for this squad currently constructed right now until the season starts in a couple of weeks. They're still a fun to watch team. They still get down and get after it defensively. They will blow you out offensively. It is a fun team. It is a deep team. And it is a serious team. The East, for me, is really wide open. Anybody could come out of it. With health, if everybody stays healthy, anybody could come out of this conference. But I still think Bucks are just a little bit ahead of the other teams. You talk about the Bostons. You're talking about the Philadelphias. You talk about the defending champion Toronto Raptors, who lost Kawhi, who's now an LA Clipper with Paul George. Crazy offseason. We don't need to rehash it here because you guys already know what happened, but it's been nuts. But the moves the Bucks have made to deepen and strengthen this team. Oh, not to mention Dragon Bender. You know, they added a lot to make this team deeper, to make it better, I'm excited for it. I'm extremely excited for the squad. I'm excited to go and see them play. I'm excited to go and cover these guys. I mean, it's extremely exciting. And you know everybody's excited when you get over 12,000 people in to watch a scrimmage. I mean, you're talking, that's the type of love that in this state, that's the type of love that's only shown to the Green Bay Packers with family night. Over 12,000 people at that scrimmage. It's a new day in Bucks basketball, and I cannot wait. Again, they are blowing out the Utah Jazz in their second preseason game. Yeah, I think you pretty much mark this one up in the W column and move on to your next one. But I am ready for regular season action. The Bucks are going to be really, really good this year, I believe. Can't wait to watch that journey. Continuing here on Toss State of the State, we got to talk about another painful ending to another team season. The Milwaukee Brewers. Season ended heartbreakingly, horrendously in Washington versus the Nationals in the one-game wild card playoff. All the work that it took to get there. All the work that was put in during the game. Brandon Woodruff going 4 strong innings. Bullpen does their job. You know, the big lefty, Drew Pomeranz. Then you get Hader in there. He's getting guys on base. Craig Counsell's trying to put him out there for 2 innings, which I think this year he struggled more in 2-inning situations. And I'll be blunt, he should not be in 2-inning situations anymore. I think the rest of the league have figured him out. They've timed him out. That fastball is beginning to get hit. He's had to go to the slider a bit more, and it's a little bit more inconsistent than his fastball. So guys have been hitting that because it's been coming up either high and it's not low enough. It doesn't have the right break to it. And these are things I just observed. The rookie Trent Grisham with the era in the outfield that brings home the winning runs. And your season's just gone in an instant. All the work that it took to get there, and this was a very up and down season for the crew. Very up and down season. A lot of injuries, a lot of inconsistent players. Then you had some trades. A lot of people thought this team was dead in the water, but something within me just told me I'm not ready to quite give up on this team. Is a forward-thinking manager. David Stearns is a forward-thinking general manager. They will figure something out and get this team to postseason. I just had that feeling in me. I just could not give up on this team. Now I know I wrote on Twitter at the20double. Now I believe they were swept by Chicago, the Cubs, and what a collapse they had. And I compared it to the seasons prior when they got swept in 5 games against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And everybody was panicking then. Oh, man, a 5-game sweep? Oh, how are these guys going to make the playoffs? These guys are going to make the playoffs. No way. Kind of had that situation that they got swept by the Cubs. Whew, you got swept by the Cubs? Division rival, this team's ahead of you? No way they're going to make this. And I said, look, people have no confidence that this team's going to come back, much the same way that they had no confidence they would come back from getting swept 5 games by the Pirates in the previous season. I never once said that I have no confidence in this team coming back. I just said you just get the feeling that there's no confidence that they would come back. And that was the consensus for many people, but not me. I just felt like they would find a way to get into postseason or at least get a game, much like last season, game 163, to make it into postseason. All the Brewers did was go 20-7 in September. 20-7 in September. It would have been better if they would have went 23-4 because they would have won the division and they would still be playing currently. But instead that went to the Cardinals. But to have the kind of season that you had, marred with injury, underperforming players, trades, acclimating new guys in here, acclimating rookies like Keston Hiura, Trent Grisham, Spangenberg. You had rookies all over the place, and they were contributing. You had new faces all over the place, and they were contributing. You had guys performing under expectations, and you managed them a little bit to try to get the best out of them, and they had their moments, but they really weren't consistent. You had to manage around that. The injuries, you had to manage around that. The job Craig Counsell did this season should be commended because it was a very tough job. You pretty much had a Band-Aid squad every single game this season, all 163 of them. And somehow, some way, and I mean 163 if you include the wild card game because that was only one game. But regular season, 162 games, you had a Band-Aid squad, every single one of them. And you still found a way to keep these guys' spirits high, make them believe, and get them to postseason. Get the best out of them and get them to postseason. That is an incredible job by Craig Counsell. This brings the question up. What happens next? What now? Do they somehow be better next year? What pieces do you add? What pieces are you going to lose this season? Grandal, everybody pretty much is saying he's a lock to be gone. That would be a big blow. I mean, you got a good catcher back there. He learned the pitching staff. He got them through games. Provided some huge pop at the plate for you. He's probably gone. He took a 1-year deal. He bet on himself. He had a career year. And he's going to cash in, and it'll probably be elsewhere. The rumor I'm hearing is he's probably going to cash in within the division with the Reds. That's the first team that I've heard that have had some interest in him. There could be other ones, but that's just the first one I've heard. How big is this window? How wide open is this window? I felt that after last season, we thought that this team was a World Series team. Craig Counsell said that as much in the celebration after winning the wild card round. Oh, excuse me, the game 163 in the Colorado series. What pieces can you possibly put on the field and can you bring to this team that you can get the most out of and get over the hump? Everybody's going to point to starting pitching. Everybody's going to point to that. Everybody's going to point to you needing that one horse, that one top of the rotation guy that you can put out there and get you off to a great series start. Others may argue you already have that in Brandon Woodruff, who by far was the Brewers' best pitcher this season. But he also had an injury-marred season with that oblique. Now, he came back pretty good from it. Took him a while, but he came back and he pitched very well after it. But he was pitching pretty much lights out before it. Can he stay healthy? Can Jimmy Nelson stay healthy? Can Zach Davies become a little bit more consistent? Can Corbin Burns find whatever magic he had? Or are you going to leave him as a reliever, which has been really in the majors, he's really excelled in that role, not so much as a starter. And I know they built him up to be a starter. I thought he would be a very good starter, but for some reason it just didn't work out. Freddie Peralta, another guy, was in the starting rotation, didn't really work out, found himself better in the bullpen. Junior Guerra's another one of those guys who ended up, he had success as a starter, but ended up excelling at his role in the bullpen. You get Corey Knebel back, your all-star closer. And I think that game in Washington, in that one-game playoff, the wild card round, they really missed Knebel there. You send Knebel out for that 8th. It's possible that Josh Hader gets through the 9th pretty clean. And you advance. You're still playing in postseason. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. So I don't have those answers. I don't know what David Stearns is thinking. I don't know how wide this window is. Because, it's really dependent on what type of talent you could bring in and how much you can get out of them. So that's going to be interesting to watch over the winter. I still feel this team has the pieces to be very competitive next season. Joe Madden is no longer in the division with the Cubs. He was let go. The Reds may be a sleeping juggernaut. They've assembled a pretty good young core. The Pirates and Clint Hurdle, I mean, he's always got those guys fighting hard. I know it didn't really work out this season, but he always has them fighting hard. And the Cardinals are the Cardinals. They're always there. So it has the potential to be a competitive division. But you really have some good pieces. You get Yelich back from injury after that broken kneecap, and that was another unfortunate blow. But to go on to have a 27th September, even after you lose the National League MVP, it's a remarkable job by Craig Counsell, David Stearns, and those guys over there, and the team for pulling together, continuing to play, continuing to believe. So again, it's just going to be interesting to watch over the winter what they do, because I just don't know. I don't know what pieces they could bring to the table to get them over the hump. You're talking Game 7 of the NLCS 2 seasons ago. Then just this past season, one and done in the playoffs. You would hope they take that step next year, make the World Series, and possibly win it. But you got to assemble a roster that's going to be able to get you there and be more consistent. And that's going to be key for David Stearns going into winter. So let's continue on. Let's take a trip to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now let's talk about those Green Bay Packers here on State of the State on Toss. Let's talk about the fact that they're leading the NFC Central, or the NFC North for you newbies. I'm still used to calling it the Central, the black and blue division. But the NFC North at 4-1. Who expected them to be 4-1? I had hoped, but with the rookie head coach and Matt LaFleur, I did not know whether or not they would be good or bad. I didn't know if they would be consistent, or just terrible. I don't think anybody had them penciled. I don't think anybody penciled them in at 4-1 after 5 games. Let's talk about the huge win they had against the Cowboys, 34-24 down in Dallas just this past Sunday. Aaron Jones going back home to Texas. 4 rushing touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing. 182 total yards from scrimmage because he had a bunch more receiving. Aaron Rodgers was not the greatest statistical day, but as he said in the press conference he's done a lot of things statistically. He just wants to win now. And that's a really different mindset. And I'm not saying that he didn't want to win. He's one of the ultimate competitors in sports. And I'm not saying that he was going out there to get stats for glory, because that's not what it is. This Matt LaFleur offense reminds me of a team that most people dislike very, very vehemently. The New England Patriots. And why does it remind me of that? It's because to this point, and let's be clear, Matt LaFleur, the job he is doing with his coaching staff has been terrific. It has been terrific because they don't go and game plan due to their strengths, right? And I know that sounds funny and it sounds backwards, like, well, what do you mean? They don't try to force what they do best into a game plan. They game plan against teams, and that is exactly what the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick like to do. And that is what they do very well. They win games in a variety of ways because they have to play games in those ways in order to come out with the win. It's not about stats. It's not about statistics. It's not about one guy getting all the shine, because to this point, Aaron Rodgers' numbers have been very pedestrian. They're not Aaron Rodgers-like numbers. People would look at it and say, "Oh, well, they're definitely not winning. Look at the stats. They're definitely not a winning team." But yet here they are at 4-1. Should be 5-0 if not for that Philadelphia Eagles game. And we're not even going to talk about the ineptitude of the officials. Blatantly missed pass interference call. I was hot. I was hot about that one. But I digress. They're 4-1, and they're winning in a variety of ways. The one game that Aaron Rodgers had that was like an Aaron Rodgers type game, 422 yards passing and 2 touchdowns in that Philadelphia Eagles game, was a loss. The other games, he's barely had 200 passing yards. Some of them he hasn't had a touchdown pass. Just this past Sunday, not a touchdown pass, not one. But yet they came out with the victory, and they have come out with victories. And really the story has not been the offense. Even though the offense, they went in a multitude of ways. They game plan against teams. They pick on something and they go after it. They go after it. They go after it. They go after it, and they come out with victories. The real story has been this defense. That's been the headline all year. You talk about the Smith brothers, Preston and Zadarius, and no, they're not real brothers, but they might as well be because they look like they are tight. So tight, and it's so good to see. You talk about 2 guys in the top 10 in sacks in the NFL. 5th for Preston, and I believe it's 6th for Zadarius. When was the last time you could say that about the Green Bay Packers squad? It's been a long time. When was the last time that you felt good about the Green Bay Packers' pass rush? I would say maybe a few years ago when you had Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers. Those guys were able to get to the quarterback. Yeah, you're talking that year where they lost to the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game in just epic fashion, which I like to block from my memory, but it happened. We have to deal with it. It happened. I still can't go and watch that game to this day. I still can't go back and watch that game to this day. It's still too brutal for me. You talk about guys like Kevin King, who's been, for the most part, healthy enough to play. I won't say that he's fully healthy. He's playing with some dings and some bruises. But you see what he can do when he's on the field. His length bothers a lot of guys. His speed bothers a lot of guys. Talk about Jair Alexander. And I don't know, he had a rough day against Amari Cooper, but a lot of corners have a rough day against Amari Cooper, who's one of the best route runners and one of the better receivers in all the NFL. So you have to give that man credit. Over 200 receiving yards and multiple touchdowns in Sunday's game. But that came in a losing effort for them. Talk about Tramon Williams still doing his thing. Talk about the rookie Darnell Savage, who this team absolutely loves, back there at safety doing his thing. There's a lot to like about this defense. There's a lot to like about what Mike Pettin is having these guys do. The fact that they are now getting home to the quarterback, not just putting pressure on them, because that is what a Mike Pettin defense is predicated on, is the pressure. But to have guys like the Smiths up front, being able to get to the quarterback and drop him is a difference maker. Because when you have that pressure, when you have guys that are getting home to the quarterback, that quarterback's clock and his head speeds up. When that clock speeds up, they're getting rid of the ball way too early, and it's leading to turnovers, which the Green Bay Packers are one of the best teams in turnover margin in the NFL. They are opportunistic. They are hungry. They are nasty. And I'm loving every minute of it. They are definitely the headline. Now, if this offense ever finds their legs and matches what this defense is doing, you're looking at a potential representative for the NFC in the Super Bowl. Now, not everybody has that same lofty goal, but let's be real. Some teams actually can do it. And there's some teams out there that don't have the personnel, that don't have the talent, that don't have the coaching, that will not sniff the playoffs. And that's from the word go. That's from 0-0. Let's keep it 100. From being 0-0, you have no chance of sniffing the playoffs and getting to the Super Bowl. Because your talent is weak, your coaching is weak, your front office is weak, whatever the case may be, you are just not in that league yet. Some teams have got to lose. Every team can't be a winner. Not everybody's going to go 500 all season. Can you imagine that parity? That would be a mess. But it's not going to happen. It's not possible. So I'm really enjoying what the Green Bay Packers have brought to the table. I'm really enjoying seeing them get after it on defense. And I'm just waiting for this offense to be a bit more consistent, to find their legs, to really go out there and destroy teams. And look, they were destroying Dallas. It was 31-3 at one point. 31-3 at one point. And you talk about Dallas coming back with a 21-3 run of their own. I mean, so it wasn't all pretty in that game. Let's be real. But the Packers have done what they've always done, which is find a way to win, and they let that defense bring it home for them. And if that's what it's got to be, then that's what it's got to be. A win is a win. 4-1, you're sitting pretty, but you got a lot more ball to play. You got a lot more offense to create, and you have to keep that same hunger and that same discipline on defense. But for Matt LaFleur, that coaching staff, and this edition of the Green Bay Packers, it's been a hell of a start. 4-1 thus far. Monday Night Football, their next game against Detroit Lions at Lambeau as they continue their home-heavy schedule. Looking forward to that. Another team that just finds a way to win, Detroit. Nobody expected them to be where they are, but they are there. They are there, and it's going to be a really good one on Monday night. Packers looking good so far. That's the state of the state. Bucks warming up to get to the real action in the regular season in a couple of weeks. Brewers, yeah, their season ended, but I think their World Series window is open. But what will David Stearns do to bring that team to that point? It's going to be interesting to see that over the winter. And the Packers, 4-1 so far, looking good. But we got to keep it rolling. We got to keep it improving. Coming up on Toss, we have to hit the Toss sweep, and we have beef between two NBA players. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Dame Dollar, Shaq. Beef on wax. It's a hip-hop lover's dream. We'll talk about that next on the Toss sweep here on Toss. TossNationMedia.com is your home for the Toss brand of sports. So if you want to hear us right here, this program, Toss, the Tristain Sports Show, if you want to read the Toss blog, and if you want to see quick Toss, the Green Bay Packers preview, it's all there. TossNationMedia.com. Welcome back to Toss, everybody. It's your main man, T Squared. Thanks for hanging with us. And it's time for us to run the Toss sweep. If you know me, and I think after all the episodes that we've done and everything that you've heard me on, including Home Court Sports, you know that I am a lover of hip-hop. I love hip-hop. I grew up with hip-hop, talking EPMD. I mean, you know me, like you're talking De La Soul. You talk about all those cats. I love it. KRS-One. I love it. I love it. I love it. One thing that I've always missed in this day and age that I don't think is done very well is the rap beef. I'm not talking like stupid beef because you tweeted me that. No, I'm talking about let's keep it on wax. Let's go bar for bar. Let's take it there, but be respectful about it, or as respectful as possible. You know, let's not bring women and children into it. You know, let's not get that deep. Keep it on wax. You versus me. Let's go. Let's see who got the better bars. Well, we got a little bit of that in the sports world, and I enjoy it when it's in the sports world. I enjoy seeing people who have multiple talents and are really good at it. Not just dribbling the ball and being the face of a franchise, of a sports team, but other interests, and they're excelling at them. Dame Dollar, Damian Lillard. Love Damian Lillard. He is one of the most underappreciated, underrated superstars in the league, period. The guy is elite and does not get the credit he deserves because he's up in the Pacific Northwest and most people are asleep when the Blazers are playing. But he is elite. Just an absolute superstar that doesn't get the credit he deserves. But he also got bars. Shaquille O'Neal, people forgot he's a multi-platinum selling artist. People forget about the songs that he had with the Fu-Schnickens. People forget about, his albums that have gone platinum. He's got some skills. He got some skills on the mic. I got to say, when Dame came out swinging at Shaq, I was like, oh man, okay. Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting this. I was not expecting this at all. And I was like, I know Shaq ain't going to win on this. Because if you watch Inside the NBA, you know Shaq is a little bit sensitive. Anytime Charles Barkley says anything, anytime Kenny Jet Smith says anything, he gets in his chest about it a little bit. And he'll say that he's not, but you can tell that he is. He gets in his chest about it. So when Dame came out swinging at him on wax, he wasn't going to stand for that. You got bars, I got bars. Let's go. And let me say this. It produced 2 hot tracks. I'm going to be real with you. I listened to both of these tracks over and over again because honestly, it's fire. They fire. They are fire. For 2 athletes to have this type of skill, it was fire. I enjoyed them both. A couple of my favorite lines. One from Shaq. Gollum looking ass boy, I'm the Lord of the Rings. Flamed him. Flamed Dame. Damian Lillard. You can never come close to the GOAT. Barely make it every year. Cry. Complain about all those all-star votes. Digging at his sensitivity. These dudes went at each other bar for bar. They kept it against those 2. Even Shaq came out and said that Damian Lillard had camel toe. Take it for what it's worth. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. As long as the beef stays on wax, I am 1,000% here for it. I'm here for it. If it's going to produce some pretty good music, if it's going to produce oh man, I can't wait to see what happens next type moment, which is what I'm waiting on, because there's got to be more. Maybe not immediately. Maybe it'll die down or something, but it just leaves you want more. Like, man, what are they going to say about each other next? And who knows? That may be the end of it. Shaq said at the end of his, have a good season, and he starts laughing. So he didn't really mean it. I am a fan of real beef on wax. I'm not a fan of the beef that started from something stupid and then you get violent and people are getting hurt. I'm not a fan of that type of beef. But beef on wax, good entertainment. My wrestling fans will know what this is. I will call this a shoot. What a shoot is basically you putting out a little bit of the truth. You're letting people peek behind the curtains, but also it's mixed within entertainment. But there's truth to it. That's a shoot. This was a shoot. They're letting each other know how they feel about each other. Dame don't like Shaq. Shaq don't like Dame. Apparently he don't like Charles Barkley either. He said that on the track as well. But as long as it stays on wax, I'm cool with it. But let's be real. If you didn't think that both of these tracks was fire, you lying to yourself. You lying to yourself. Because both of these tracks were fire. I enjoyed them. I'm hoping for more. But they both work amongst the NBA. Dame on the Portland Trail Blazers. Shaq inside the NBA, TNT. All his other endeavors. I don't know if we'll get another track. And if they wait too long, the hot fire sizzling from this beef might die down. It just might say, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. You said what you said. I said what I said. Squash it, is over with. But I ain't going to lie to you. I'm secretly hoping for one more track from each of these dudes. And let's see who's going to get that knockout punch. Because they both was throwing haymakers in both of their tracks. But they were both fire. I enjoyed them. Keep the beef on wax. I hope there's more. But if y'all said what y'all said, and that's all y'all need to say, hey, thank y'all for the hot tracks. I'm going to still listen to them no matter what. This is Toss. All right, y'all. It's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been Toss, the Tristain Sports Show, episode 45, and we are back in full swing, man. Like I said, life takes you down a couple pegs. You have some shocking things happen, but you fight through it. You get better each and every single day. And like my mom said, my lovely mom, I love you, rest in power. It's okay not to be okay as long as you are working to get better every day. Hey, y'all know where we located at, tossnationmedia.com. That's tossnationmedia.com. We are also on Facebook. That's Tristain on Sports Show on Facebook. That's facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And y'all know my Twitter at the20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and double. And that's all I got for y'all this week. That's it. That's all. But we back. I promise y'all I'll be back next week. Till then, I'm T Squared. This is Toss. Remind y'all that I'm the one and only, and so are you. Embrace it. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week. So long from Toss.